Are you a convicted murderer, sir?
I am free.
Are you a convicted murderer?
Oh, hell no!
If I thought Brazil was so much better, I would have stayed there. Someone explain to me why I am expected to respect and abide by everyone else's customs, literally everywhere else in the world, everywhere else I go except here.
I saw this yesterday. It was just making the rounds. It's a Brazilian immigrant talking about why she loves this country and what it's kind of like an Arnold version of this, that there's things that you're kind of responsible for when you come to America.
I moved over here from Brazil and I'm pretty much Americanized by now, in case you can't tell. It's been over 25 years. I'm now a proud American citizen and I have worked hard to adopt this country as my own and become a valuable part of this community. Let me introduce you to this word, which means to adopt something as one's own and become a part of it, which is what's supposed to be your job as an immigrant. So that means that I can come over here and introduce you to some cool stuff like guaraná and farofa, but I'm not supposed to be coming over here and be an invasive species. That's not the reason I came. I came here to be one of you. If I thought Brazil was so much better, I would have stayed there. Someone explain to me why I am expected to respect and abide by everyone else's customs, literally everywhere else in the world, everywhere else I go except here. Oh, but some people are fighting political persecution. Okay, well, if your land and your country and your culture and all that's so much better than we are, then you stay there and you figure it out and you fix it. That sounds like a you problem. Basically put, if you're not coming over here to assimilate like me, then you need to stay right where you are. Period. Full stop.
I think she mentioned some Brazilian foods, but she didn't mention the Brazilian wax, which isn't that their #1 export? But putting that aside for a second, yes, the word she was talking about, for those of you listening on the audio podcast, was assimilate. That is the whole idea of what we did here in America with the melting pot, that you come. This is what we all learned in 4th grade. If you come to America, and you probably did this in your class, I remember doing this. Literally, I think I did this in 4th grade. Mrs. Golden was our teacher, and they had a big pot. She drew like a big pot in cardboard cutout paper, and then we all took like our own little things that we had from our own cultures, and whether you were Italian or Jewish or Irish or Greek or whatever it is, and we would put these things in, and it was all the idea of the melting pot. Yes, we have some different foods, we listen to some different music, our grandparents came from different places, but the pot is America. You assimilate into that, and it's a melting pot, so you get this delicious stew, as opposed to what they've done in Europe, which is where we get these very separate oil and water things, that you basically have water in Europe and they bring in oil and they don't mix, and then they kind of just separate. And it's not good when it gets real hot and splashes all over you. So yes, get on board what that lady is saying. And I love the fact that she comes from Brazil. It sounds like she has maybe a Texas accent or something. Like, it's just great. That's what America's about. Nobody cares that she happens to be a little browner than the average white person or anything else. She seems to love she loves the country. She wants it to be great, and she doesn't want people here who are here to destroy it, like pretty much the entire Democratic Party.
More immigration raids across Southern California today as federal agents target laborers, day laborers, and street vendors. The operations unfolded in several neighborhoods, including Upland, Pacoima, and right here in Hollywood.
Tonight, the Department of Homeland Security says more than 36 people were taken into custody. Mary Beth McDade live in Hollywood tonight. MB.
Yeah, Mike and Jerry, Home Depots have become well known for undocumented migrants to come in search of construction jobs. And now they're becoming equally well known for federal agents to carry out immigration enforcement raids. And today here at this Hollywood location, at least 30 people were detained.
I'm tired of you taking our children! I'm tired of you taking our parents! Into the lane!
A man voices his anger and frustration as federal agents conduct a raid at the Lowe's in Pacoima, where several people were detained. This just one of many immigration enforcement operations carried out around Southern California Thursday. Federal agents also targeted several Home Depots, one in San Fernando, another in Upland, which was captured on video by an Upland resident.
I think it's awful. These poor immigrants are just trying to make a living, trying to survive, feed their family. And here you come, ICE is coming around all over and just picking Hispanics, no matter no matter if you're documented or undocumented.
And armed federal agents were seen arresting dozens of day laborers and street vendors outside a Home Depot on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. Onlookers began posting images like this one on social media of some of the detainments.
2 agents tackled down a individual.
This woman in the red being detained is a street vendor from Guatemala. That's according to her brother, who says she has been living in the U.S. illegally for 25 years.
She sells food, carne asada, pollo asado, and then they catch her like a criminal. She's not a criminal. She's just coming here to try to, do something because we don't have opportunity in our country.
The Department of Homeland Security released a statement in response to today's raids, saying in part, DHS and its components continue to enforce the law every day in Greater Los Angeles and throughout the country, even in the face of danger. Under the Trump administration, 75% of illegal aliens arrested by ICE are either convicted criminals or pending charges against them. During today's operations, an individual rammed his vehicle into a law enforcement vehicle. CBP agents were also assaulted during the operation and verbally harassed. Despite this, CBP arrested 30 illegal aliens in Hollywood and 9 illegal aliens in San Fernando and Pacoima. And DHS says that law enforcement is facing a 500% increase in assaults while carrying out these enforcement operations. And so they do want to remind people that assaulting a federal officer is a felony.
Only Fox News was with ICE in Los Angeles as they moved in to take down a high-priority aggravated felon. His name is Alexander Palacios Guevara, and DHS says he's a Salvadoran illegal alien and Sureños gang member with convictions in LA County for murder and attempted murder.
I have an immigration lawyer.
Guevara has had a deportation order since February 2024 and had been living freely in Los Angeles County, a sanctuary jurisdiction. Now that this convicted murderer is in federal custody, he's coming here to this ICE facility where he's going to be booked. They're going to take his fingerprints, take his biometrics. He'll be placed in a cell. But as we were reporting on what would happen next with Guevara, he interrupted us to repeatedly say he shouldn't be deported because he has a special form of relief called CAT. ICE says you have a deportation order since February 2024, sir.
No, I just got CAT on December the 18th. Of last year by the BIA. You can call my lawyer.
It turns out his claim is true. ICE wasn't aware at the time of his arrest, but in the final days of the Biden administration, on December 18th, the BIA, or Board of Immigration Appeals under the Biden Justice Department, granted Guevara a relief known as DCAT, meaning deferred removal under the Convention Against Torture. It means Guevara can't be deported to El Salvador because he fears being killed or tortured. Are you a convicted murderer, sir?
I am free.
Are you a convicted murderer? And Brett, we learned that ICE had to briefly release this man from their custody. Then they quickly rearrested him the very next day. He remains in their custody now. ICE sent a statement to Fox News about this, saying that this criminal alien should have never been roaming the streets of Los Angeles in the first place. They went on to say that this Biden-era decision to protect him from deportation to his home country is, quote, highly unusual. ICE tells us this guy is going to stay in their custody right now while they try to find another country they can deport him to other than El Salvador. We did reach out to his immigration attorney multiple times over the last couple of days, asking specifically, who is this guy afraid of? Who does he think is going to torture him? But that attorney never responded to us. Brett?
That was an amazing story. Bill Maluchin.
Right in our studio, tomhoman. And what kind of job is he doing so far? Let's take a look at those numbers. 1 year ago, the border was totally out of control. Now, totally in control. It is amazing. I know that the president is thrilled. So are the American people. Tomhoman, welcome, at least the sane American people. How are you? And congratulations.
Well, I can't take the credit for that. It's President Trump. President Trump has game-changing policies he came in with, and plus the men and women of the United States Border Patrol, this 60,000 men and women of CBP are doing an outstanding job.
Absolutely, absolutely. But that is incredible, the contrast. And I know we kind of know, but What did it take to pull that off?
Enforcing the law, which the Biden administration refused to do. We're simply enforcing the law. Plus, President Trump came up with some extraordinary executive orders that were proven effective during the first administration, right? Remain in Mexico, third safe country, ending catch and release. You know, following the law. The law says if you come to our border without proper documentation, you shall be detained. Not maybe, not release you to an NGO, not put you in a hotel room with $500 a night. So President Trump's enforcing the law. And you see the difference. And, you know, during the Biden administration, we were up to sometimes 13, 14,000 a day coming across the border. The other day I walked in the White House, 95. 95 total apprehensions across 2,000 miles of border. I've been doing this since 1984. I've never seen that. And 0 releases, 0 people being released.
So overwhelming success. And part of the reward for that, a lot of death threats, I'm sure, against you personally and your men and women. The men and women of ICE and beyond are being threatened and targeted. And I think they want to do more of that by having them remove their masks. Why would they want them to remove the mask?
It's just ridiculous. We're at the point in this country where those who enforce the laws are the bad guys. Those who broke the law are the victims. But you're right, assaults against ICE officers is up over 400%. Agents are being doxxed, their home addresses, their pictures are being posted. There's actually several websites on the internet where you can post a picture of a deportation officer and give his identity and where he lives and so forth. There are pictures been on trees and telephone poles in some of these sanctuary cities. But they go beyond that. They also threaten their spouses and their children. And look, I know firsthand, I got a lot of threats against me and my wife and kids, and so I had over 1,000 protesters in my house just 2 months ago. But on the borders, I expect that. I don't care what people think about me, I honestly don't, because I know I'm doing the right thing for this country. But the men and women who strap the gun to their hip every day and go out there and put themselves in harm's way, they don't deserve that. They're enforcing the law. If you don't like it, change the law.
And you know the law. I've seen you cite the law, letter, verse, everything. You know it. And a lot of your adversaries, a lot of people on the left who don't like these laws, they don't know the law. They don't know, and they can live in this kind of parallel universe where anything goes. I just find that, how do you characterize divorce from the truth, willfully ignorant, what?
You know, I think it's just hatred to President Trump and everything he stands for. Bottom line is, all these people are screaming and yelling around, especially members of Congress, Democratic member of Congress, who want to attack ICE, comparing to Nazis and racists. I mean, for God's sakes, they're enforcing the laws that they enacted. So if they're racist for enforcing the law, what's that make Congress? They wrote the law. They enacted the law. And they're out there, you know, executing final federal orders from a federal judge that, okay, this person had due process at great taxpayer expense. I order him deported. So they're out there enforcing laws enacted by Congress. They're executing orders from a federal judge. They're not making this stuff up. But I'm really shocked that any Democratic congressperson, any Democratic governor like you got here in Holco or your senators here, their number one responsibility is the protection of their American communities, their constituency. ICE has been clear. They're prioritizing public safety threats and national security threats. It should be a nonpartisan issue. They should be shoulder to shoulder with us. We're trying to make their communities safer. You would think they would support that.
What are the numbers you're looking at now? We saw May of last year versus May this year. Great. And the border's under control, right? It is. There are a lot of illegal aliens out there. We know the numbers are probably north of 11 million. What's the plan? I mean, like there's a lot of people that you can go after. I know the criminals are first, but can you just kind of put that in words?
Well, we are prioritizing public safety threats and national security threats. If we look at everybody we've arrested since Inauguration Day, about 75% are convicted criminals or pending criminal charges, which means we found them in a jail, which most likely means you're not a choir boy. And a lot of the collateral arrests are happening in sanctuary cities like New York. If we can't arrest a bad guy in the safety and security of a county jail or Rikers Island, and they release them because they don't honor our detainers because they're sanctuary jurisdiction, that means we got to send a whole team into the neighborhood to find somebody that don't want to be found. You arrest somebody that's on his turf and have access to who knows what weapons. So now we got to send a team of 5 or 6 to arrest this guy. And most of the time we find the bad guy, they're with others. Others that are in the country illegally. may not be a criminal target, but they're in the country illegally, or they're going to get handcuffed, taken too. Because we're not telling ICE, ignore the oath you took, ignore the immigration law. You're going to enforce the law as Congress intended. Now, in the last administration, Secretary Mayorkas told ICE agents, you can't arrest somebody for simply being here illegally. They got to be convicted of a serious offense. It's ridiculous. Totally opposite what federal statute says. So sanctuary cities get exactly what they don't want. More agents in the community, because you forced us there, and more collateral arrests, because we're going to find them when we're looking for the criminal target.
So, okay, you're going to find them when you're looking for the criminal target. So you're looking for the criminal target, and then these are kind of in the vicinity, right?
Right. Many times we're living with others, or if we have to go to a work site to arrest a bad guy, work site, there's going to be others. It's probably not the only illegal alien being hired by the employer, so we're going to take everybody. So if you want less collateral arrests, if you want less danger for the community, then let us in the jail, where one agent can arrest one illegal alien criminal in the safety and security of a jail. It's safer for the alien, it's safer for the officer, it's much safer for the community. Why don't you let us in the jail? You locked him in a jail cell. You made that decision. We just want him when you're done with him.
There was a little bit, it's reported, backing off certain hotels and maybe rural facilities, agriculture, meat processing. How did that come about? Was that from the president? Did he ever tell you, okay, let's back off in that area?
It all comes back to the prioritization and the messaging. Look, we're going to do worksite. We're not going to stop doing work sites. Most of the worksite investigations are based on criminal information, whether it's sex trafficking, forced labor trafficking, money laundering, tax evasion. You know, first of all, no one hires an illegal alien out of the goodness of their heart. They hire them because they work them harder, pay them less, and undercut the competition who employs U.S. citizens, right? So worksite is just like at-large criminal operation. We'll prioritize them. If we get information on sex trafficking or forced labor, where these people are being abused, not being paid, and being treated badly, we're going to go in there and we're going to do a worksite operation. We're going to do a worksite operation where there's criminal nexus. That's always going to be the priority. So worksite's still going to be around, but it's going to be prioritized just like the at-large operations are.
What's the deal with Dodger Stadium? There's been some...
You know, it's just ridiculous how they stretch the truth so bad. I was out in L.A. Before the riot started. I went out there and started an operation that started the protest. We served 3 criminal search warrants on a criminal investigation, and that's what we went nuts over. It wasn't an immigration raid. It wasn't looking for people different than us. It was a result of a money laundering, tax evasion, and customs fraud case where we believe it's a part of a bigger investigation where a lot of the proceeds are funding criminal cartels in Colombia and Mexico. That's what we were doing, right? But when we have teams out, like I just said, we're forcing the neighborhood to find these people, we got a rendezvous. After we hit one place, we rendezvous near the next target. So we'll meet in a parking lot of a grocery store or an industrial park. So officers many times will meet in a parking lot, just a rendezvous, discuss where they're going next and go. There was no operation at the Dodger Stadium. It's just ridiculous.
How do your people like working with the National Guard in California and the Marines? They're there legally, as we know from the Ninth Circuit. This is totally legitimate. How are they coordinating, and how do they like each other?
They're loving it. I was there the first 2 nights before President Trump made that decision, and it was bad. I mean, thousands of protesters surrounded our building. They were breaching the building. We had employees in there. We had aliens that we arrested earlier that day in there, put them at great risk. A lot of federal property damage, assault on our officers. So I thank God President Trump made that decision quickly, because Gavin Newsom wasn't going to do it. So they're there to protect property and protect our officers, and it's working great.
We see the protesters going bananas and berserk all the time, testing your officers. Have you had, and this will happen in any law enforcement organization, where an officer has made a mistake, maybe has gone too far, and you have to take disciplinary action or at least investigate?
Look, our officers are well trained. If someone steps out of line, they'll be disciplined. I mean, we have a disciplinary process, but I haven't seen our officers step out of line as far as I've seen. They're a push to the brink. And there's times they could use more force than they use, but they don't, because they really do. You know, again, ICE officers, people need to remember, they're moms and dads too. They have kids too. They don't hang their heart on a hook every day to go to work and go be a bad guy. These are American patriots who put their lives on the line for this country every day, don't make a lot of money, And right now, the threats against them are at all-time high. So they got a dangerous job, made even dangerous by the rhetoric from the Democrat people in Congress, Democratic governors and congressperson. The rhetoric is high. And what scares me the most, this rhetoric getting so far out of control, comparing ICE to racists and Nazis, it's only a matter of time until something serious happens, either to one of our officers or to a civilian that goes over the line, not just peacefully protests, but attacks an officer where deadly force has to be used. And people attack me for saying that, but I'm telling you, I've done this since 1984. I've been this a long time. The rhetoric has to be tapped down before something terrible happens.
And it's rhetoric not just from some idiot with a Twitter account or an X account. It's from the governor of California. It's from major office holders.
Absolutely. Then you have the protester when I was in L.A. throws a Molotov cocktail officer. Now, we've seen what damage a Molotov cocktail can do just a few weeks ago. It's getting serious. I just wish people would step back and think about what you're doing. I support protest all you want, hate us all you want, but don't cross that line. We're at a place now where people think it's okay to assault a federal law enforcement officer. They think it's okay to threaten the spouse or children of a federal law enforcement officer. It's not okay. And as far as all the rhetoric, well, we're all against, you can arrest the criminals but non-criminals. Since when is being in the country illegally? Since when entering the country illegally is a crime? Since when is that okay? Since when you have to commit yet another crime to have the laws enforced against you? Despite the protests, despite the out-of-control people, we're going to be out there tonight. We're going to be out there tomorrow night. We're going to be out there every night. We are not going to stop the job that President Trump promised the American people we're going to do. President Trump, in my opinion, is the greatest president in my lifetime. He proves it every day. I've worked for 6 presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan. When it comes to border security, national security, immigration enforcement, no one does it better than President Trump. You just looked at the numbers. We went from 15,000 a day to 95. Gotaways, on average, under Joe Biden, 1,800 a day got away. No number was yesterday? 23. President Trump has made great progress. He's even better than Trump 45. We're going to keep doing this job for the American people. Every criminal, illegal alien we take off the streets of New York, LA, or any other city, that city's much safer because of that, and we're going to keep doing it.
And thank you for that. And to all your men and women, tomhoman, the border czar, we thank you, sir, very
Thank you.
much.
Appreciate it.
Be right back.
Do you believe deploying the military to conduct law enforcement on U.S. soil is legal?
Look, we have to make certain that we protect American cities. If not for President Trump, Los Angeles would be burning right now. We had 6 ICE agents that were totally in fear of their life because local officials, an incompetent mayor, a grossly incompetent governor, refused to do their job.
Is there anything you would not find acceptable for the U.S. military to do on U.S. soil?
Look, President Trump understands what the Constitution is. He understands what the laws are. We have to protect our cities. We have to protect our ICE agents. We have to protect our federal buildings. And Gavin Newsom should maybe get off Twitter and start actually going down to L.A. and protecting his own citizens.
The courts have ruled on the Guard. They will be back under my command.
A few moments later.
Okay, why is Trump back in control of the National Guard, you guys? What the hell is going on? First I lose my pool boy Roberto, and now this? I seriously need a mani-pedi right now. A bottle of wine, cherry ice cream, and a whole season of Will and Grace. Fuck this politics thingy.
What's actually happening is they're buying voters. That's really what's happening. It's like a giant voter fraud scam. They're importing voters. It's easy to understand if you look at basic incentives. The basic incentive here is the more illegals that the Democrats can bring in, the more likely they are to win. So that's what they're going to do. That's what they have been doing, and it worked in California. California's supermajority Dem. And look at all the companies that are leaving California.
Yeah.
I mean, In-N-Out just announced they're leaving.
Yep.
Their headquarters leaving California.
They're moving to Tennessee.
A fourth day of rallies and protests on the streets of Los Angeles.
It was a peaceful rally. What is going on right now is also peaceful.
Here we are expecting rallies later on.
When they show up, we gotta show up even stronger.
In Los Angeles, there is a new crowd of protesters that has been building.
CNN had it that these were rallies. Now they've become protests. I'm afraid that by tonight they become riots. If we don't have the ability to stand up and stop this violence before it consumes a great city like Los Angeles, then there's no telling where this could spread.
Hardworking, good people, and they're the backbone of our city, and they should have access to all the things that we have access to. And I just don't think they understand that it's a political pawn. I don't think they understand
It's a political game.
This is not done for compassion and kindness.
No.
This is just done to ensure that it stays blue.
Correct.
Yeah, and it's essentially a bribery with your tax dollars.
Yes, this is why the Dems will not even deport criminals.
Yeah.
Because every criminal deported is a lost vote.